Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, grasshoppers. Everything seems to be working okay. Much better than the other day. I guess it was 3 days ago that we got our last stream in with a recap of round one. Several funny things happened on the way to my 3-3 score in the Reykjavik Open. The good news is I've only lost one game. Any coffee? Coffee is needed. All right. See, hopefully I have my game scores in my pocket. I think I have 3 game scores. Let's check it out. See what we have. No, I haven't actually reviewed these except with my opponents. Oh, good. That's yesterday morning's game. So far, so good. I take that back. We have 3 games to review, don't we? Check for another. Found it. I believe we have all 3 games. We'll try to do this as efficiently as possible. We have a 3 o'clock round today, which is in about 4 hours. 6, 4, and 5. A very pleasant but quick game review. We will be doing these as well from the beginning for YouTube when we get home in a proper format for YouTube, but these are the live broadcasts from the site, from the tournament site. Oh, what was that? Oh. All right, so this morning we might be white. I don't know what I'm going to play. I'm playing a young, or this evening we're playing a young Indian phenom by the name of Phenom Liu. Perhaps Phenom Hu. We will see. Let's get a quick game in. Let's continue with knight c3 on the first move to not give away what our first move will be today. And if our opponent is here, that will be even better. But let's go back in time for a moment to see where is our opponent at the moment. Is he online? He is online. Speaking of being paired, even if not present in a Swiss, just like over the board chess, this happened to me Saturday morning when I overslept my round. Jet lag, time change. I like this speech much better. Let's see if we can go back. Oh, he played a move. Never mind. MSB. No worries, no worries. I know how it goes. I have forfeited my share of games. Should we play the Alien Gambit? I do not know. Nah, I'm not going to play the Alien Gambit. I'm just going to play this very, very normally. And now that the bishop... Well, that was very kind of him to give up the bishop pair like that. Should we castle queenside? Very London-esque maneuver here. I think I want the space advantage. Yeah? We don't want him to get too much out of this deal. Not too much out of this deal. Now, do we have c4, c5? That's a little bit of a bother. Sorry. Can't let you get anything on that side. Hoping to run him out of squares. Here, here. Can I play it this way? I don't know. Doesn't look like it works very well. Does not look like it works very well at all, but we'll visit. I'll bite. And now for something completely different. Do we exchange off everything for a better endgame? Or do I just try batten down the hatches the old-fashioned way? Let's batten down the hatches the old-fashioned way. Maybe we'll reach a better endgame this way. And then we'll decide on what not, what for, and how. What is he threatening? Is he threatening my pawn? This pawn? That pawn? Yes. Kind of a bummer. Everything seems to be covered, except for what's not. Wow. Takes, takes. Can I go this way, that way? X-ray. I'll try going this direction. Just keeping up the pressure as we see fit. Fit, 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 fit. Knight to a4 is a bit of a problem. Maybe he'll go knight to d5. I don't know. Oh, he did go knight to d5. That's good. Because I do want to go in here. I'm losing a pawn. And now, I don't have much of a choice, do I? Need to keep anchoring. Hope that he takes this. Mm-hmm. Can I? Better keep up the pressure. We're going to recycle our have to remember I only have a 2-second delay in this particular adventure. I'm going to capture once and bypass for what it's worth. And now we're winning material. This is very, very kind of him. Did not expect him to go that way. Expected him to go to the side. And then I have to watch out for knight to e3 triple check. So yes, there was a bit of that in there. At least we got one game in. Grandmaster Thor Halsson is playing in the tournament. I know that he lost last night. He did not fare well. That was unfortunate. How's this coffee? A little bold. I'm going to use the fresh stuff, even though I wasted. Who's our music? Fresh coffee better than no coffee. Out of milk. All right, let's make this coffee work. Oh, what happened to our musica? Crazy that I lost our musica. We have the Pretzel Rocks player installed. Mm-hmm. Due to my filters, I cannot play this track. Fine. Let's just play some alternative, ambient, blues. Calming cinematics is my favorite. See what that can do. All right, learn, study. My studies, Reykjavik Open. We do have Jan Salzburg here. Let's cover up the and Erlengar Arnason. We do have that one as well. So I was black against Erlengar Arnason. And he started off with the amazing egg opening, if you can believe it. Quite crazy to me that he began with the egg opening. So the egg opening has been played by Magnus Carlsen and a few other players. And for those of you who aren't aware of the egg opening is where you move the E pawn once and the G pawn 2 times. So after e3, c5, I mean, after all, I don't mind exchanging and reaching a position not unlike the Caro-Kann, where we exchange the e-pawns for the c-pawns I'm familiar with, and appreciate all of those equalizing structures. My opponent plays g3. Now this is a really awkward move, because we already have a diagonal for the white bishop, and we're affording ourselves a second diagonal for the white bishop. So unless we're getting a Benoni reverse structure where this pawn is designed to break down white's advanced, I'm sorry, if we were white, black would be playing the Benoni, to break down the advanced d pawn with e takes d. But instead we have this, so I decide to take over the center appropriately, and my opponent moves the g-pawn again, completing the egg opening feature. So as it turns out, I feel no qualms about taking over the remainder of the center. And we're just going to reinforce our center by developing our pieces in the order of their values. For example, since the pawns are worth 1, it makes sense to begin with a pawn. And it makes sense to grab space in the center. That's one of our 3 essential advantages. And we are going to reinforce the center with a knight. That way we are going to be controlling these squares, and we're perhaps even struggling against white playing his pawn into the center with d4. Therefore, he finally puts pressure on our pawn on d5, and we reinforce it with bishop to e6. This is perfectly reasonable, acceptable, and awesome. And after h3, they actually have to he's thinking about developing his knight to either of these 2 squares, because the queen will not be guarding the g-pawn after he develops his knight to block the bishop or to play it to e2. I might actually shove this pawn and then capture the free pawn if he kept the pressure on my d5 pawn. So therefore, my opponent is on point as far as this opening goes, but he's cost himself quite a bit of time. Let's just consider for a moment, how many moves will it take black to finish the opening, to finish setting up his pieces? The opening phase of the game is that which you should finish setting up your pieces in order to play the game. That is all an opening is. If you wish to memorize all of the ways, the various possible ways to know how to move the pieces, to set up the pieces properly, that is entirely up to you. But personally, studying endgames, studying middle games, mastering tactics and micro strategies is far, far more valuable to you as a player, a developing player, than if you are going to be studying openings. So studying micro strategies, studying tactics, paying attention to transitions to a better endgame is a far, far better way for rapid chess improvement than if you study openings. Studying openings may make you feel good. It's a great pacifier toward thinking that you're playing a better game, and you may play like a 27 or 2800 for the first 7 moves, but if you don't. I was headed upstairs, but then there was no chair, so I wasn't planning on being here long. I'm sorry?
You could take a chair.
Oh, I appreciate it.
But I'm actually happy you're here, as long as you're here.
I just feel like I'm too close to the other rooms upstairs if I'm too loud. I don't know who's there. In any event, so I'm staying at this lovely Airbnb not far from the tournament site. Highly recommended, the Old Bicycle Shop. Plenty of rooms. And I'm relatively in the heart of the old downtown Reykjavik, with plenty of places. In fact, 2 of my favorite places, the Reykjavik Fish Shop is nearby. Iceware in Northern 66, also where I bought some Reykjavik gear because I didn't bring appropriate clothing last October, is just across the way, as well as the Rainbow Street, which are popular tourist destinations. So needless to say, my opponent has succeeded in playing the egg opening. For anyone who may not have been here in the beginning, he plays e3, g3, and g4. I seized the center appropriately. You don't need to know any opening certain moves in order to achieve a good advantage in the opening. Honestly, you don't need to study openings at all to understand when you are better in this position. You only need to know that your pieces are going to be coordinated 6 to 10 moves from now. And that is key in every position. And if you have mastered basic micro chess strategies, and if you have mastered certain concepts of space, time, and of course gaining material through the use of tactics, you should have no problems traversing any unusual openings. You don't need to study one at knight c6 for black, for example, in the opening, as long as you don't play it yourself. If you do play awkward openings that give up space in the center, then perhaps you're studying the opening just to survive and not to win. So notice that I have developed my pieces, I'm ready to castle, and now my opponent plays a very awkward move. And it's now dawned on me that I actually have to think about whether or not I want my opponent to castle. So here we are. My king is safe. I have a good firm control of the center. I have 4/5 of my pieces developed. What can I do right now to keep my opponent from castling? That's my ultimate goal right now. I believe that I could have just finished my development and had a solid plus an advantage, or I could just keep my opponent from castling by pressing now. This is a very good opportunity to ask for candidate moves for black from anyone who is here. For anyone who is here. I wonder if I can trim the screen just a little bit for you. Yes. But in any event, I decided to shove for the most part. Even though we have less than 20 of you here, it's more than a few, so it's great. Although you're very quiet, we will, for example, hope that most of you saw the hook involved in attacking the knight and the pawn at the same time. And in any event, after knight e5, my opponent's sending his knight off. Notice that the knight is not protected. So I really do have to make a critical decision here as to how I'm going to continue. My candidate moves in any event might be to shove the knight back to a better spot, but this could loosen my king's position. And in fact, it would weaken the b6 square. That when the knight does arrive on c4, I might have to capture it because he's planning on bothering me further on my dark squares. Very, very awkward, interestingly enough. So what to do? What to do, where to go, and how to do it, for the most part. I'm going to give a quick shout out to one of my favorite streamers. Who popped in a few moments back, if that works on the whole. But needless to say, in this particular study stream, we do have to figure out what's going on and how we're going to go about doing it. So I chose to exchange in order to reach the d4 square with my knight. It's also possible that I chose to guard my pawn on a7 with king to b8. Right? What to do? What to do in this particular position? We'll try one more music service in the background while we're here. What to do? Suggestions for black. We have king to b8. We have d takes e3. followed by knight to d4. We have h5, in fact. We might even have the pawn break h5 or f5 if we wish to. Very tempted by the move h5 or f5. And in the game, I actually chose to open up the center immediately. After all, I don't wish to give him any time to castle. He recaptures, and then I oppose bishops. So this is his best placed piece at the moment. And I'm going to exchange it off a la Rubinstein in Rottlevi Rubinstein, or even in Cohn Rubinstein, 1909, 1906 or so. So needless to say, what will we be doing in this particular moment? Play music on your stream using this player. This cannot be easily changed. This will be Streamlabs music. All right. Let's see what we get. That one disturbs me, so I'm going to keep going. Fair enough. We'll see how it goes. So my opponent chooses to continue his development quite rightly, and I have to decide how I'm going to keep up the pressure of preventing him from castling. If I can keep him from castling, this is a small strategic micro maneuver involved in a very good success rate in the 1800s. So if we can keep our opponent from castling, he will be suffering quite a bit. Now we can do it in one of two ways. We can perhaps play knight to d4, attacking his queen, and almost no matter what captures back, I will be attacking his knight, or a pawn will be attacking his bishop. But there is some awkwardness involved here, as knight takes e5 is very serious. Another candidate move insists of bothering this pawn that is only guarded once by attacking it twice, or by bothering the pawn twice with the help of a battery, or a battery with the pawn followed by the queen. Or we could just let our opponent castle and tuck our king away. Now it also occurs to me that if we open up the f-file, we could create some further tactical opportunities for my opponent. My opponent is playing very brazen chess, very brazen chess. He is trying to win this game rather than play good chess. So I did choose the move f5, and after e takes f5, queen takes f5. Should he castle here, I'm positive that he would be fine. So I set a little bit of a trap, and he fell into it hook, line, and sinker. He goes for it. He decides that my king and my queen are going to be skewered. Now I could almost tell what he's up to in this position, and I can almost miscalculate for him that he's looking at bishop to h3, not aware that the queen can capture on f3 if my king is not here. Got this retained image problem. And I'm going to have to play bishop takes f3, bishop takes f5, and at worst it'll be bishop takes e2, king takes e2, and everybody will be even. Knight for bishop, bishop for knight, and everybody's happy. So I tucked my king away to b8. And he fell right into the trap, unfortunately, as a slightly lesser rated player might. He played bishop to h3, and after queen takes f3, he looked very disconcerted, as since I'm attacking two major pieces, he has to trade queens and adjust his rook. Now, once again, how am I going to keep my opponent from castling? Well, we've already achieved it on the king side, and now we need to firmly be ready to anchor our bishop on f3 with another piece if we can. So I chose to do it right away with knight to d4. This attacks the knight, the c2 pawn, ultimately the king and the rook. And after this capture, he has to move yet another piece again. And for the first time in the game, he's allowed to move his king, although he still cannot castle. So he does exactly what I thought he might do. He's going to chase away my bishop, or try to rid me of the piece that is preventing him from castling, so everyone here will know what I've done next. Candidates for black. Candidate moves for black. Now obviously we have a few possible bishop retreats. We have candidate moves such as protection, and we have candidate moves such as counterattacking. I have often seen many young players think that h6 is a good move, only looking at rook takes f3 and h takes. Uh-oh, my battery is running low. Fascinating. Let us make sure that we're plugged in. Well, all that time on battery, not bad. I think I am possibly going to trim up. Uh-oh. The Pretzel Rocks is now playing. Is that funny or what? Now we have more than one music player going in the background, of all things. Got some fusion jazz happening. Fascinating. No words. Subscribed at tier 3 for 10 months. Thank you. I wonder if I go to Lead Chess Study, if this will be a cleaner interface. Well, our previous Lead Chess Study. Lead Chess Game Analysis. That one looks like it worked out pretty well. In any event, what do we think? Black to move. I am going to try to trim it up just a little bit. Just so that we can have a cleaner screen on the whole. Without any illusions of possibly do that without the follower goal? The follower goal was really inconsequential here, to be honest. Oh no, I do need that, don't I? That's unfortunate. The suggestions for black. Everyone's very, very quiet. Well, of course, I had to choose the move e4 to reinforce my bishop. And after the move bishop to f4 check, you can see the aggressive nature of my opponent in every single step of his of the ideas behind his moves, and every single feature behind his moves. Is that it? Yeah, we'll transition that one in. That one looks pretty good for the most part. Reykjavik Open, everything looks good. Stream title, yada yada yada. We don't really need the follower goal on this particular page. That much is true. Got it. We'll hide that follower goal for just now. The chat box could be a little bigger since we don't have any pretenses here. Wow, the follower goal was in 2 different locations on this window. So bizarre. There's a lot of editing to be done in this particular one. Almost 7:30 in the morning in New York City. Is that crazy or what? Normally there would be sunrise chess. So in any event, I do wish to trade pieces. After all, I am up in material. The secret to success is to assimilate and to go after our opponent in any particular manner. I'm going to open up lines toward my opponent's king. I'm going to speed this along, and I'm going to actually activate my rook. And my second one is to free up my knight by guarding the h7 pawn. So he could walk into a boatload of trouble in this position by playing king to d2. I analyzed rook to e2 check, king to c1. Obviously we have the winning of the rook if we wish to have it with rook to e1 and rook takes, but we have a simpler win in the form of rook to c6 check, king to b1, and rook to e1 mate. The king to d2 is out of the question, so therefore I planned on protecting my h7 pawn with the help of bishop check, king to g1, and bishop takes d5. And for whatever reason, I somehow imagined my opponent would wish to threaten checkmate with rook to c1. It would be a mistake for me to try to trade rooks, as he can remove the defender of my back rank and get exactly what he'd hoped for, since move 1, which is whole plan is checkmate. I mean, he's not a bad player, he's just a player that needs more depth in his strategic maneuvers. So he's also threatening the move rook to c7. And honestly, I have nothing to fear from this. The simplest and fastest winning plan did escape me. Candidate moves for black, everyone. You should be doing this process, by the way, every step of the way. For whatever reason, right at this moment, it doesn't think that I'm locked into Twitch. So strange. Am I broadcasting to Twitch at all? Strange. See if I can enter the code to log into my own Twitch while I'm streaming. Very strange. So bizarre that I had to re-log into Twitch. Isn't it? Let's transition in a new layout just because we can. And we can also improve the size of our webcam and everything else if at all possible. We might do that before the end of the stream. So needless to say, the fastest winning plan is just to move the bishop out of the way and shove the d pawn as fast as humanly possible. There's absolutely no danger with the rook coming to c7 because the bishop's guarding b7. So another possible way of doing it was bishop to a6, perfectly equally quick and winning. But both of those means would avoid the back rank mate. I chose knight to d5 because my opponent did something very unusual here. My opponent actually left the board, and I assumed that he'd gone outside perhaps for a nicotine fix. And it's possible that he also did that, but when I went to the front of the hotel to see if I could find him, after all, when people disappear from the board, people start to get worried here and there, even though this isn't a position that I should be concerned about. I basically played the move knight to d5. Oh, no, I had already played the move bishop to d3. I apologize. I had already played the move bishop takes d3. And I had numbers of ways of winning. Not that one. But in any event, he was sitting at the bar having a drink. I found it very amusing that he did not invite me. So after the game, he did invite me out for a couple of beers, and we did have a couple of beers at a nearby place where I found lovely opportunities to have greater food later. The Gallery Mall, which you'll find in my socials. So in any event, you'll find the photo of I had a very lovely chicken burger, another cheeseburger of normal proportions. And last night we went to another Mediterranean place with Lula Robs, Johnny, Mercure, Matt, and Glenn. And it was really lovely to be hanging out with them for a change. So in any event, I chose knight to d5. My opponent instantly takes on h7. And I looked at this position for a very, very long time. Candidate moves for black. Now this may be amusing, but I did look at the best move. There are two moves in this position other than taking the rook that could be equally as good as taking the rook, if not better. And it takes the computer a long time to sit on these two moves in order to find that they are better. At first it believes that another move is just equal to taking the rook on h7. But certainly when you see a good move, you should look for a better one, and that even includes when your opponent is offering you a free rook, especially if your opponent is offering you a free rook, because they may be trying to con you into a trap, right? My famous story with Linda Diaz and the Nationals coming back into the tea room exclaiming that our opponent gave away a free rook and then found a lucky checkmate. Or blundered a free rook and found a lucky checkmate. And we are, what do you mean he blundered a rook? How do you know that it was a blunder? And her reply was, well, he said, oh no, or oops, very loudly right after he made the move. And she took the rook and then got checkmated. Of course, she believed him.
Said, hi Master Chess Dojo, how is the Reykjavik Open going?
Oh, 1e4. Good, how are you? You have a birthday coming up. You and Velcrodot are sharing a birthday arena coming up. I don't know when it is. I don't know if it's this weekend, because I don't have the calendar of events.
Said yes on Saturday.
Yes. Hopefully you're no closer to 39 than I am. And that way we'll be able to stay 39 for quite some time. So moves in this position other than bishop takes h7. And I literally did almost play one of the two moves, and one of them is better. One of the two moves is better than...
Said I will be 139.
You're killing me, Schwartz. Yes, Paul. That's cool. Velcrodot is such a sweetheart. Katrina. Cat. I should tell a friend of mine about Katrina. I met a friend I met a young person from Japan yesterday who had to choose an English name in Japan when they were studying English. And she had chosen Trina without knowing any of the background knowledge. I told her that it's often short for Katrina, and sometimes Cat is short for Katrina as well. So it depends on whether or not you prefer that. So the other two moves, other than bishop takes h7, were rook to g8 and knight to f4. In all these cases, we're threatening further rooks, further opportunities for checkmate if we drive the king into the corner. And then we can take this rook on the next turn in almost every count. So for example, of the least forcing move, if we look at knight to f4 for just one moment, we'll see that we're very close to forcing even further checkmating possibilities. Let's say that white saves his rook and doubles on the file rather than just capturing the rook on c1. But we do have to be very mindful of the fact that our opponent is trying to checkmate us with the help of his bishop. So we do have an opportunity to take a free bishop. And of course, if he chooses the rook square, it's going to be even more fatal for him. Our rook is still glued down to the back rank. Chances are our opponent is going to not allow the loss of the pawn with check. After knight takes f2, we have a very opportunistic bishop to e4, d3, d2, d1. And of course, we also have the possibility of using the bishop to support an Arabian checkmate. So I weighed up these three moves, even though my opponent immediately played rook takes h7, completely oblivious to the fact that just moves before I had protected my pawn on purpose with bishop to d3. I did choose ultimately to take it and move forward with my plan of trying to promote my pawn. Now, it was in this position that I actually calculated out to about a mate in 6, 7, or 8. I figured I could checkmate my opponent in 6, 7, or 8 moves. I didn't want this game to go in vain, even though it is so one-sided. This game is so one-sided that I felt I need to practice my calculating skills, which have become very, very rusty, Paul. Basically, if I don't actually calculate Now I will have trouble practicing calculating in a position where it could be life or death. So therefore I play the move knight e2, and as it turns out, checking it later with Stockfish, this is a mate in 7 and this is a mate in 8, and I did miss a move pair along the way in my calculations.
Said, what is your opponent's rating?
My opponent was around 17 or 1600, give or take. I try not to look at the ratings. All I know is that they are lower than me. So after king to h2, avoiding any further checks, I decided to press on. Since I'm capturing on this square with my rook with check, I may even get further opportunities for ladder mates after the queen move with check. And it could be rather, my opponent chose to finally resign here when I demonstrated that I'm going to have even more material and there will be no stalemating possibilities.
Said, how does a 1600 hang a rook and why do the 1200s I play look like 2000s?
I think you're playing on chess.com. That's part of the problem. I believe that you have to raise the rating minimum across the board for all players. And there will be massive inflation, of course, but they have to reduce the K factor at the top, so it's almost impossible for the 3000s to gain any rating points.
Said, no, I was referring to my last disastrous tournament.
Oh no. We'll have to review those games, Paul. We'll set up a guest star camera / lesson plan, and we'll do a why do 1200s look like 2000s and over the board play stream as a birthday gift to you. We'll do a quick one. Send me the games in advance though, so we can have them ready in a study. All right. That way I won't have to feverishly look at my score sheet and try to figure out this stuff, which is always awkward. Let's move on to the next game where I play Jan Salzburg of it wasn't Salzburg, it was Salzman.
Said, IVE posted my 3 losses on Chess.com along with my annotations.
All right. That's good to know. Shoot me the link, either in a DM, if you can share it, I don't know. If it is a part of a blog. There were only 3 games in the tournament. And how long, and what was the time control? I'm not going to go into the ethnic backgrounds of the opponents. Because, Paul, I don't necessarily know if you are as American as me, but I think that if you and I are American, we can automatically take 400 rating points.
Said, no, it's in the game analysis section of the forums.
Okay, excellent. I'll check it out. You're Paul 1E4 there too, right? I'm going to try not to look at your notes when I do it, though. I try not to look at the engine analysis, and I try not to look at any other notes. I want to try to look at it as objectively for myself as possible without any biases.
Said, yes, same username.
All right. Great to hear, Paul. So, Jan Salzman. Uh-oh. My light needs a little bit of charge, as the dim the lights does not refer to HS stream. Well, at least now I know how long it lasts. How about that?
Howl E. Said, I got 2-5. I didn't bother posting the victories. Time control was 90-10.
Oh, you got 2 out of 5. Why wouldn't you post the victories? I learn a lot more about a player from the victories than I do from the losses, contrary to popular belief. So believe it or not, yes, you can learn a lot about chess improvement from your losses, but you can also learn about a player's style choices and technique abilities from their wins. So how you approach the game when you are winning is just as important and equally narrative shaping of a player's personality and what they might choose to prefer in the future. So in any event, I was white and I chose to play the move knight to c3. Now an amusing thing happened. I was paired with Peter from the United States
Said
the
I
night
got
before.
lucky in one of them. My opponent lost a piece to the Noah S arc trap.
Nice. So I do want to see how you handled that in the... It would help me if you sent me a link to where I could find it, because I get lost in chess.com, which is one of the reasons why I tend not to use it. Not unlike my opponent in this round. My opponent began playing the wrong person. My opponent actually was 10 or so moves into the game. And there's a tricky rule here where if they are 10 or more moves into the game, they might continue playing and I might be stuck with the other opponent, assuming the score groups work out. But I don't know how forgiving the FIDE ratings, FIDE pairings are to this type of switch. I was photographing the round. I took some videos I posted to my Instagram community and my Facebook community for about 10 minutes before the round. After the round started, I get to take photos of Anna and Dina and Anna Maya and Andrea and Alex, etc. Tanya Sachdev is here. Mayo Elu also began talking to me last night because I had taken a picture of her at the beginning of her draw with Ivanchuk. So she might be able to write that up. And honestly, she is a sweetheart. She's now the #1 player in the world for girls in her age group. So I'm very happy for her. I should have congratulated her in person, but needless to say, we're going to try to make this short and sweet because I do wish to grab lunch before the evening round begins in 3.5 hours. So, Jan Salzman from Germany, and he mentioned a place, had already started his game, and I had already seen that he answered e4 with e5, so I knew he was a natural e4, e5 player. So this was quite a risk for me to play the move knight c3 with the intention of playing e4 if he answered with e5. In fact, had I answered, I could have played d4, c4. Everyone here knows that I will play all the openings. I'm not restricted to any one particular opening. And as it turns out, my opponent did not necessarily know how to play the opening very well, despite being an e4, e5 player. As it turns out, he plays knight c6 instead of the recommended knight f6. Knight f6 fights for the center squares that white is trying to hold. So in this manner, if white plays f4, black can answer with d5, and the battle is on and the position is totally equal for both sides. Totally equal chances for both sides. I'm not going to say it's equal as in a draw, but it's totally equal chances for both sides, regardless of how we wish to continue from here. So in any event, a very common mistake in this particular position is taking the pawn and then getting shoved back, because there are no future or forward moves available for the knight. However, my opponent chose the move knight to c6.
Said if black doesn't know exf4 is bad, he will get into trouble.
So in this position, when I played f4, he immediately gave up the center, which is the best move, because I did not prepare properly. Against knight c6, it is usually recommended that white either play bishop c4 or g3. Both of these are rather toothless continuations of a closed nature, and putting the bishop on this square instead of f4, by the way. So this position, g3 and bishop to c4, followed by knight on g to e2, d3, or not knight on g to e2, followed by f4, and then knight f3 for a closed king's gambit. Bishop already on c4, but I wouldn't want to commit that. Another position, and I probably would have won that game as well. The other way to continue is g3, bishop g2, and knight on g to e2. And in those positions, they've been recommended by many and played by many grandmasters. However, in this particular position, I am worse. And in fact, after the move knight to f3, my opponent has one very important continuation here, which almost puts me completely on my back foot. And this means that he does have to have a bit of courage.
Pegasus SVE said, "Hi John."
Good morning, Ron. How are you? Candidates for black in this. Candidates for black. I'm trying to do some adjustment on the layout whenever I do the candidate moves. So let's do that real quick. We'll shift that one in now for the most part. We're missing our chess informant logo in the top left, unfortunately. What happened to our there's another follower goal.
Pegasus SVE said NF7. Hole E said BC5 D6 B flat 4. Pegasus SVE said NF6.
NF6. NF7, Pegasus, yeah, NF6. Well, interestingly enough, I'm going to transition that one in, even though the follower goal is not complete. Our opponent should have played the move g5 in this position. And I am definitely worse for wear. This is not unlike the Fischer defense, where he could play d6, g5, and bishop to g7. Now I literally do have to figure out how I'm going to continue playing. And I'm definitely worse. But on the whole, after knight f3, my opponent played the rather profound bishop c5, which is not at all bad, because after the move d4, my opponent now has some very curious continuations, candidate moves for black. Candidate moves for black. As I attempt to adjust several stream sources here. We seem to have a record number of viewers. I don't know where everyone is from, but please tell me where you're from right this minute, please, so that I can actually address all of you properly and appropriately. I am from New York City. I am a FIDE trainer and national master, John MacArthur. If you also are able to subscribe to the YouTube, that would be terrific.
Hole E said IVE from Knoxville, Tennessee.
Thank you, Paul. And Paul does have a birthday on Saturday. You know, I'm not entirely sure. Bishop takes d4 or knight takes d4. Which one is better? Believe it or not. I almost want to look at the game score. I'm not sure which one is better. But one of them does afford the possibilities of black playing queen to h4 check, and it's extremely awkward in this position. Let's go with bishop takes d4 for just a moment. Maybe not. Let's go with knight takes d4, and after knight takes d4, queen to h4 check, king to e2, and then d5, and you can already see the trouble that is brewing on the f2 square and on the diagonal toward the king. Little did I know that in this position I had a better move than d4 if I really wanted an advantage for white. Now, I had a pretense toward another position, so that's why I did not. If you have not yet followed the channel, please do. I am setting up the capture source to fix the follower goal. Current amount 7, 5 gifted subs. That works out well. This looks correct.
Said B flat 4.
B flat 4. I love how Twitch chat. Oh, for white. Moves for white. Bishop to b5, you mean? Vegas says we have to work on this. You can only go so deep.
Hole E. Said BC4 then D3 BXF4 QD2 castle long.
Yes, yes. That absolutely does make sense. So am I really transitioning this follower goal into this arrangement? Am I? I'm actually going to edit this and it's going to come out very weirdly. On the next one. Right? But we'll see if we can do it that way. I'm way off in my layout. I have to do something with my layout. I don't have the huge screen to be able to adjust my layout. Apparently bishop to c4 was better. And in this manner, black might actually try to occupy the center, and I'm not too pleased about this, but we can easily go after the dark squared bishop to remove a defender and achieve rapid development. And we will get our pawn back, etc., and so on. So everything will be good. My opponent, however, after the move d4 showed why he was a 1700.
Said I will see if I can set up a Lichess account and do studies of my games in the disastrous tournament.
Oh, you don't have to do that. You and I can do it together. Did you try to send me a link and you couldn't? Is that the story? The ease of which it's easy to use. For your birthday, Paul, we're going to have a training session, whether on stream or not. How about that? I think I've had one with Katrina a long time ago. We worked together briefly.
Said I will whisper a link.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and then I'll run through it with you on how. Absolutely, sir. So bishop takes f4, d6, queen to d2. Everything's all well and good here. And guess what? Who can tell what's about to happen now? Based on my previous game with Erlengar Arneson, what is my micro strategy in this position? Who knows what I'm going to be up to? And how can you guess it? It would be very cool. Oh, the subscriber goal is at the bottom. That's what's hidden over there. I'm going to take that one out of the loop. That's the one. I haven't used that one in a long time. I'm removing the subscriber goal completely. So we have the all-time cheers, all-time gifter, username, recent subscriber, this, that, and the other thing. Recent follower, recent donator, and overlay. And I want to unlock all of those. In order to move them together.
Said E5 BC 4000.
Pegasus SVE.
Said white to move 000.
White to move 000, you say? White to move castles, yes. Absolutely, I do want a castle queenside, but I also want to keep my opponent from castling, so therefore you are right on the money in certain respects. I actually chose to move d5. I think
Said
e5 could have been better, but castles is best. I will give everyone that. Castles is absolutely best in this position. And I should have really considered what was going on in this position appropriately, but I did not. Whoops, Control Z. I need to lock down everything back there. Where was that on the stream overlay? I'm going to do a quick adjustment. What does it say on the stream right above my camera? I can't quite read that. Oh, I know what it says. Bollocks. That's Ron Hay, probably. For the most recent follower. But we've adjusted it. And now I just need to move the stream title as well.
Pegasus SVE.
Said 5e didn't like DXE5.
You don't like d takes e5? e5 don't like d takes e5. Yeah, I agree. It does make it a little awkward. All right, now I'm about to adjust the webcam. Everything about the webcam. As much as I dislike it, moving the webcam properties at all. Game analysis. There it is. We will cross our fingers that we can fix the other stuff later.
Howl E.
Said Twitch ISNT letting me whisper anything, so if you want to find the games you can look at my Chess.com profile under notes and activity.
Not letting you whisper anything. That's not cool. Okay, that's what I will do shortly, Paul. Transition this in. Let's see what we can do here.
Pegasus SVE.
Said if OBC4 looks good for white.
Yes, it does look good for white. Obviously, I should just let him finish his development, but wait till you see what happens. Now, the move I was curious about was that if he might move knight to e5 straight away, what was I really going to do to him? But he chose the right move, and I get to put pressure on both of these knights and threaten to expose his kingside development. And then he leaps in here and goes after my f2 square, which I'm so happy about. So I attack him and I say, please come into f2. And does everyone see what's going to go on if for whatever reason, he does play knight f2. Obviously, it's nowhere near the top 5 moves suggested by the opponent in this particular position, but it is certainly worth looking at. As I make one more adjustment to the stream, I'm trying to work on this Elite Chess Games analysis part. What do we have here?
Ronald Heidenfors.
Said nf2 rh1 then b3.
Knight f2, rook g1, then bishop e3. Interesting. That wasn't my plan. Rook h2, then bishop e3. It looks like that might work. I was a little concerned after rook h2 that my opponent might be able to play, but maybe not. Maybe you're absolutely right.
Ronald Heidenfors.
Said or g3 looks good.
Or g3. My plan
Said
was
rh2 is better than rg1.
My plan was if knight f2, then bishop to b5 check, any move by black, and rook to f1, and I'm swallowing that that knight from escaping. If I play the move g3, I feel like I'm not coordinating my pieces well enough. So my opponent instantly replied with knight e5, and I played what I thought was the only move, because I wish to play. Remember, my micro goal, as in the first game, is to keep my opponent from castling. So, as it turns out, I get to keep my opponent from castling in this manner. And of course, now we're back to candidate moves for white. Candidate moves for white. What can we possibly do here? Reykjavik opened. What can we possibly do in this position that will... Remember, our theme is to keep our opponent from castling. And we had this theme very successfully in the 4th round, and we're going to have it again here in the 5th round game. Jan Salzman.
Ronald Heidenfors.
Said d6 perhaps.
Indeed, d6.
Said bxd 700 rf1.
Indeed, d6. That's exactly what we're up to. It's exactly what we wish to do. Now our opponent has a choice of taking and capturing on b5. Those are the only 2 realistic possibilities, and I believe they both transpose, because I was probably going to be playing the same thing on both, as my opponent played knight takes b5, and I run into a spot of trouble, and I should actually lose this game.
Ronald Heidenfors.
My opponent plays
Said
really,
better
really
stream
well
on
here.
YouTube.
Is it better on YouTube? That's cool. Good to know. Then my opponent plays f6, which I should give a bit of an exclamation mark to.
Ronald
He finds the right move to be able to
Said
extract his
Victor
king
is
from
very
the center.
good.
That's very cool. That's great to hear. I'm wondering if I didn't reach a certain number of subscribers and I got access to HD, because at the moment, below 500 subscribers, I believe I might be restricted to standard definition. We'll check after this stream, which isn't going to be much longer. We're going to finish this fellow off, much to our chagrin, as we should, in this particular position, have a better move. Candidate moves for white. Candidate moves for white. And can determine what that is that I've selected. We'll transition that one in. This is just the game analysis. Lichess game analysis and review.
Ronald Heidenforce.
Said BXF6 GXF6 QXF6.
That's exactly what I played, but there's a better move, Rob. There's a better move. Get coffee. I have to replace milk in the fridge. Or a bit. The one with sandwiches. I'm going to try the barista oat milk. I'm going to replace this oat milk. And in case the other people wanted to replace their milk, I could probably do that too.
Ronald Heidenforce.
Said oh.
So amazingly enough, just castles. Is it 3? Because it's quite incredible how much.
Paul E.
Said QE600RF1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then this move just finishes him off for the most part. Quite crazy. But if he does find the best possible move, right, in this particular position, if he does find the best possible move of knight to c8, now I actually have to think all over again on what I am going to be doing. I would probably keep in line with the theme of preventing him from castling. Yeah, just checking the assessment. I am slightly better in this particular position with queen retreating or queen capturing. Oops, sorry about that. Did I adjust the screen too poorly? I like how the opacity of the background is showing through just slightly in order to promote the socials. Isn't that clever? So in any event, my opponent did not fare well after the move bishop takes f6 in this position. D takes f6, queen takes f6, and I'm actually getting mated here for the most part after rook f8, I believe. I'm very close to getting checkmated. So candidate moves for white once again. I'm in trouble all over again here in this particular position. Queen e6 castles and rook f1. Thank you, Paul Waddy, for. I didn't want you to think that I didn't acknowledge yours, but castles was definitely the move. Queen e6, I think, is the second best move, Paul, because if g takes, it prevents knight c8. Prepares knight to d6 check. But because I don't get castled here, I have a very big choice between knight d6 check, queen takes e5, and queen e6. Or at least those are what I believe to be my options. In the game, I chose the rather disastrous queen to e6, and my opponent instantly replies with bishop f2, and I did not see how I was losing here for black. Candidates for black in this position. This is where my opponent took a very seriously wrong turn. Then I'm going to go check out Paul 184's link. Immediately afterwards. Has anyone found the proper move? And I can actually admit that I am in big trouble here, having sacrificed a piece for one. If my opponent finds the right move. Very awkward. I do get 3 pawns for my piece, but I don't really quite have enough. Needless to say, the game came to a rather rapid conclusion here as my opponent found the move queen to c8. And I can't tell if he resigned before I played the move knight to d6 or as I was playing the move knight to d6. But I believe that while I was reaching for the move, the knight, he chose to stick out his hand.
QD7, QB6.
Yes, Paul 184, you have it. One of those 3 moves that you gave is better than the move that he played, which loses the game. And one of those 3 moves that you suggested, Paul, is, believe it or not, clearly worse for me. All the other one isn't. Suggestions before we bring the stream to a close on this game? And once again, I'm staying in a lovely Airbnb in Reykjavik, which I highly recommend.
Said anything is better than the move
The
he
old
played.
bicycle shop. Lovely rooms. Wonderful community in areas. They have one upstairs too, which I didn't even know about when I was looking at a desk area that was recommended to me. It's so far from the coffee pot though, and I had to take a chair, so I tended to gravitate toward the coffee pot. So are we on point? Queen to d7 was the move that would put me seriously in arrears in this position. Seriously in arrears, as it turns out. I can't believe what I would be doing here had he found this move. I've sacrificed a piece, my king can't castle. I don't have any particular passed pawns to show for this piece. Possible that I might be able to play knight to d6, and after knight f7 check or queen takes d7, and
said with a material advantage and an airy king trading queens should be job 1 for black.
yeah, I would also consider the move queen takes e5, but I'm seriously losing in this position. After queen takes e5, bishop to g3. My only thought during the game was that he had to play either queen to b8 or queen to b6, but the awkwardness behind queen to b6 doesn't go away after what we thought was trading the queens and then playing knight c7 and knight takes a8. Little did we realize.
Said qxe5, then road 1 n6.
Yes, bishop takes b6, and I don't have anything here. I'm just losing. Wow, what a hallucination. So queen to b6 should be interesting. But it's not winning. Queen to d7 is clearly better. Clearly better, I think. Needless to say, I'm very thankful that my young opponent believed me, and my shaven appearance, being youthful, has deceived one more opponent, and I managed to win the game immediately following this. I'm very thankful for. Quite crazy that that succeeded in any way toward helping me. But queen takes e5, then rook d1. Thank you, Ron. Yes, but still, I'm worse in that position. I could even be down a full piece if I'm not careful. Because after queen takes e5, he also has other possibilities for his bishop, retreating and covering c7, like bishop to b6, and on rook to d1, you'll have rook to f2 check. So it just gets a little bit sticky, to say the least. Needless to say, so I'm going to bring up what our possibilities are for exiting stage left. We are going to go to another Lead Chess streamer, and I will see everyone in the near future. Let's see here.
Ronald Heidenfors.
Said you have 2 RF1 later.
Paul E.
I do have 2
Said
rook
five.
f1 later, but it's just a sticky situation. I didn't say that I'm losing, but I'm definitely struggling being down a piece. And it does afford myself, my opponent, opportunities to bother the daylights out of me in ways that I wish not to be bothered. In any event, thanks everyone for being here. Cheers and ciao. I do not know what's going on with the background, but I'm going to investigate. It looks pretty cool, I have to admit. I think I like it better as a black screen rather than the motion. The motion is dragging on my system resources. So, c'est la vie. Cheers and ciao, guys. Paul, Ron, Paul, I'm going to look up your activity and notes shortly. Just now. Thank you, everyone. I will be back with game number 6, which I managed to win for a 3-3 score.
Screen game over.
Game over indeed. All right, thank you.